Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Jessica Yurgaitis, president of Industrial Supply Company based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Jessica is the fourth generation of this family business that has been serving the industrial community for over 106 years. Legacy is important. One of the things I've loved about Jessica is her regular posting of historical business documents on social media. Some of these documents date back to 1915 and give us a glimpse into the world of distribution at this time. As you will hear, she strikes an interesting balance between respect for the legacy institution and a desire to push the organization into the future. Ambition, drive, and a healthy dose of humility are the superpowers that will help Jessica lead her company for many years to come. I hope you enjoy our conversation. This episode is brought to you by my friends at Moblico, mobile technology solutions for the wholesale distribution industry. In the last couple of years, text communication between customer and sales associate has exploded. Now, much of this communication is occurring on personal devices outside of the company view. If that associate leaves the organization, what happens to this valuable customer data? I'll tell you what happens. It moves on to the associate's next place of employment. This doesn't happen if you use Moblico. Customers text your company's main phone number and the software routes the call to the appropriate party. You can also engage your customers with chat and email conversations, all from a convenient team inbox. Check out what Moblico has to offer at www.moblicosolutions.com. That's MOBLICO solutions.com. And be sure to let them know you heard about them on the Distribution Talk podcast. Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Distribution Talk. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, Jason. I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. You know, on the show, we like to do a little history lesson, and being a history major, you can appreciate this. If you wouldn't mind, just let's go back and really talk about your beginning in the company at an early age, being dragged into it. But you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing a little bit about your journey so far?
Sure. It's an interesting path. I went to college and didn't have any interest in working for the family business, like zero, not just a small
Not
percent.
even an inkling.
It was maybe a negative percent. I had worked here a little bit in high school and college, so I knew about the business and I knew it was hard work. And maybe that's why I was thinking about doing something different. You know, I grew up in the business with my dad running our company.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the building. I attended association meetings with him. We entertained customers and vendors at our home. So I knew more about it than I was giving myself credit. But I got my Bachelor of Arts in History and Anthropology at the University of Utah. I started and finished there, spent some time doing some other things in between, but I wanted to go back and get a master's in teaching and teach high school history. I was coaching volleyball at the high school I went to and had done my student teaching and already there, but I wanted to do the master's program. I ended up at dinner with my father one night and we were just kind of chit-chatting, catching up. And I think, you know, part of growing up I'd say in a pretty affluent family, a upper middle class family, I just sort of expected he would pay for my graduate program. And I mean, that's embarrassing, you know, right? That's like a little silver spoon embarrassment. I shouldn't have assumed anything. And he wasn't going to.
Yeah.
So kind of level set that time in my life. Did I want to take on debt, get a master's? And I needed to earn some money to pay for it. And so he suggested that I come and work for Industrial Supply Company. And it was in 1999. And I don't know what was going on economically at that point, but they were desperate for employees. At the time. So maybe like the last year I was Ben's, I felt like I was doing him a little bit of a service by taking a job for him. And at the same time, I was going to earn a little money. And, you know, the rest is kind of history. I kind of found a path here that I really enjoyed. And as time went on, that need to go back and teach high school just sort of vanished. And here I am 23 years later.
It's kind of sneaky when dads pull that, isn't it? Why don't you just come hang out with us for a little while, earn a couple bucks, and then go ahead and go back on, the teaching path then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sneaky.
Yeah.
It's just, Yeah, it definitely got shanghaied on that deal here. I too did not believe that I was going to. There was a certain point where it changed, but I didn't believe I was going to go in the family business. I had other things going on. And early on, you're brought in, and those breaking child labor laws, bringing you into the company early on and seeing all of that. And you're right. It was hard work. You saw a lot of different aspects of your organization, and your company has a very solid and very strong presence in that Intermountain area. So, there's a tremendous legacy there as well. And it's like, do you really want to be part of that? Do you want to have to take that on?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and you know what? To my dad's credit, I don't think that he actually expected that I would spend my career here, at that dinner
mhm.
necessarily. I think he was trying to give me some business experience. But as I kind of grew and took on more responsibility here, I could almost feel him saying, "Are you sure you want to do this? This is really hard. And family business is difficult. And
It is.
maybe you want to just rethink it before you infiltrate yourself more and more and,
Mhm.
and root yourself into the business deeper." So there was almost like this push pull thing going on with him for a few years.
Interesting. You couldn't make a decision one way. Oh, do you want in? Do you want out?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Then that happened again when this opportunity for me to become president of our business, he was the most reluctant for me to take on that responsibility because he lived it for 50 years as CEO of our
Yeah,
business and he
yeah.
knows what that means. It's a lot of sleepless nights, it's a lot of personnel issues, and you become a rabbi and a counselor and a priest and a coach and all those things. You're also running a business. So
Yeah.
he knew what I was going to be challenged with. And he still always is asking me, "How am I doing? Am I okay?" And
I think that's going to continue forever. I don't think you get away from that.
yeah.
No, and even as I've left the family business years ago, I still get that question from my parents. Well, how are you doing? How are things going? Do you need any money? No, I'm okay. I've been, I'm okay. Really, I'm doing okay. Thanks, though. I appreciate the offer, but yeah, I think that's just that role of the parent, especially if they've seen you working. I mean, that's the other thing. There is a unique relationship when you do work with your parents. Everybody thinks that it is silver spoon or no, it's cushy. And no, there's a tremendous amount of pressure. And I don't think people who haven't worked with their families before, they don't understand that there is a different dynamic for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to explain unless you've done it. And it's not all bad, but you don't really get away. You don't get to check out. You don't get to turn your
Yeah.
phone off. And even for my dad and I, we've had to set some real boundaries. I try to catch up with him and have dinner with him once a month or so. And, we're always talking about work. And so I'll have to say,
Yeah.
time out, time out. Like, let's talk about your grandkids. Let's talk about you. It's not
Yeah.
all about the business. We can't just fully identify ourselves as father and daughter as industrial supply company because there's just too much more about the both of us that we need to understand and support. That's very hard to do because we'll time out and then all of a sudden it circles back into our dinner conversation.
Sure. Sure.
So,
It's interesting. So I have this very similar relationship, with my father and my brother. When I was working active in the company, same things would happen. All we did it at family gatherings would talk about the business again. And my spouse and his spouse and our mother, just they're like, look, can you guys just stop for a while? And you're right. There has to be ground rules. And frankly, I've learned way more about my father since I quit working with him
yeah. Yeah.
than when I was active in that company.
I think it's easy for my dad to carry on like that, and that's fine. But when my kids say to me, "Can you please stop?" Or if Papa comes over, or all you're going to do is talk about work, and I'll think, yeah, that's not fair to them. And that's really just not, and to everybody else around us.
It is, and kids are a great, check valve. They absolutely can point out things that you probably should know better about, but they just have that unfiltered. Hey, I don't want to hear about that anymore. And it's funny. I hear my kids talk like, "Is that all you ever do is talk about work?" With certain people on the phone. I'm like, yeah, maybe we should stop that. So yeah, fair enough. So, if you wouldn't mind, can you take me back through some of the roles that you've had in the organization? And I think the big question is which one was most fun? It's there are fun ones and there are not fun ones. So please.
Uh, yeah, no, that's a good reflection. I started when I was given an opportunity to come and work here full time. I
Mhm.
was given an opportunity to either take a sales route or jump into our purchasing department. And I chose
Mhm.
the latter. And, where I really learned the business was meeting with suppliers and listening to them and running our programs and eventually marketing on behalf of them and co-branding together. So I started there, but my favorite job was the job I took. I was pregnant with my firstborn, who's now 20. Actually, I went there first and then got pregnant. Anyway, I was running our receiving department, and that sounds so crazy, but it was the best job I had because you can see the product come in, you clear your floor, everything gets put away. It's very satisfying to actually finish
Yeah.
your work at the end of the day and to
Mhm.
be on your feet all day long working with people in our operations that work really, really hard for the company and have been with us for a long time. And I really got to learn so much in that job. I only had it for about a year, but I loved it because I could go home and I didn't have to work anymore.
Mhm.
There also wasn't a cell phone at the time that chased me home or a laptop I had to open. I start and I punch out, and then I can go home and be me and not worry about anything. So I did that job, and that was my favorite. I think, though, over time, the best part of my job is meeting people and having the opportunity to network. And I've been able to do that in all of the rest of the jobs I've had here. So
Mhm.
whether it be with supplier relationships or in procurement, or I did a stint as our vice president of sales, meeting customers and entertaining customers. That part is fun in so many ways because you're building your network, you're learning, you're constantly learning, you're getting to know people, not necessarily business to business, but developing relationships that carry through everywhere you go. And now in this role, I feel like I have a wonderful network of people that I could pick up the phone anytime and call, and they'd be willing to give me time and help me work through an issue. And I do that all the time. Do you have
Sure.
10 minutes? Can I call you? I've got an issue, whether it's another distributor or a supplier or a customer sometimes. So that's been the most rewarding part of this job, and hopefully will continue to be. And it will be one of the reasons that I'm successful in the role. And it's not just because of me, it's because of the power of a great network and people in the industry.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that, one of the things I love about this show, what I'm doing today is I do get to connect with people and I get to find out a little bit more about them. And then next time I run across people in a different setting, wow, we have a lot to talk about. And I've made that connection. And I think that's extremely important. So, no, I can appreciate that. But if I could for a second, I'd like to go back to the receiving job because nobody's answered that before. Okay. That is a
Sorry.
unique answer. That's a unique answer for me, which is great. Well, I tell everybody I love driving a truck. I loved being a delivery driver because I think very similarly, at the end of the day, I was done. I had a very set amount of things I had to get accomplished throughout the day. I never had downtime. It was really just, okay, got to get on to the next place and the next place. And I met some really cool people and learned a lot of great things while I was on the road and delivering to customers and learning about their habits. And so that was my favorite. But if I think about the receiving, in my opinion, it is the most important job in that warehouse environment,
Yeah.
bar none, the most important job. So I understand how you like that because it's so important. You make one mistake there and it translates to 10 additional errors that eventually have to get cleaned up. But if you can straighten that out and if you can get that working well and really be able to pass that on to someone else, that's a tremendous accomplishment and frankly will serve your company extraordinarily well for a long time.
Yes, we have that philosophy here. We put our best workers, our best people out in receiving just to make sure we don't start with errors and we're 100% perfect. It doesn't always happen. And suppliers make a lot of errors too. So,
Yeah.
but the interfacing with pretty much our whole business from that receiving floor, from accounts payable to the sales team
Yeah.
to purchasing, it was just a great way to learn the business. And so I appreciate that time. I also was pregnant and very sick at the time. So I, I was having major morning sickness in that role. So I think maybe I just have a lot of memories there. And they're good personal memories of being pregnant and working and feeling gratifying experiences all day long. It's a good time in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there are many days when I was on the management side where I'm like, can I just go back there? Can I just go back to the job I really
Please.
liked?
Yeah.
Sure. So then you did some time in the purchasing side, and I've spent a lot of time in my career, working in that purchasing environment. I spent that time too. But then you moved into that sales and marketing, which unfortunately in wholesale distribution, at least kind of the message that we all heard growing up was that those two were the same. They really were blended. But I've come to learn and been taught that it's really, those are two separate disciplines. And so, if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing, what does marketing look like in an industrial supply company or in a legacy family held company? What does that look like?
Well, for me, it may look differently than other companies because we have so much history here. We try to leverage that, and we have been very fortunate to carry a legacy brand here that, for the most part, is synonymous with quality and service and all those things that we hope it would be. And our customers that have been with us for a long time would hopefully agree with that. So for me, I did do vice president of sales and marketing. I had that role for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I can't remember. And I was bumping up against myself in that role
Mhm,
because
mhm.
I wanted to do the one thing that was branding our business, and my
Yeah,
sales team needed something different. And I did a lot of listening, but at the end of the day, I was trying to drive brand, not necessarily product sometimes. And
okay.
that doesn't necessarily benefit your sales team when they
Yeah,
need product materials and catalogs and things like that. So there's a hybrid now. I have a marketing manager now who understands our brand well enough, and she speaks in her writing the way I would. So
sure.
that voice has been carried on, and I trust her immensely with our branding message. But those jobs are now separated for our business. So marketing still reports into me, and our sales reports into our vice president of sales. So we're always trying to bring those groups together and ask questions. And at the same time, we're doing business development and market reconnaissance. And those things are very much a part of marketing. Who are your potential customers? What geographies have synergy? What product categories could you take on or align with that might make sense in the bag? And also giving the salespeople tools they can use. But that digital side of marketing has changed so much. And when
Yeah,
you're a 106-year-old company and you're used to doing big old fat catalog and your customers don't
sure.
use it anymore, you're trying to evolve in the digital space. That's where we are, along with most distributors, I think, is taking old school marketing and making it relevant for millennials and Gen
Mhm.
Zers and people who will be your customers later. They might not be now. So always trying to think forward. What does the next generation, what are they going to need? And how do we reinvent ourselves to them? And we don't know necessarily. So my marketing manager is a lot younger than I am. So she's a millennial. So I
Yeah,
listen to her quite a bit.
right. Surround yourself with smart young people. Hey, that is how presidents get made right there. As we surround
Exactly.
ourselves with people who know stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that it's an interesting perspective. And it's something that I absolutely agree is those two roles should be separated because they are different disciplines. And I think once companies recognize that they are different, and I liked your comment about brand. I mean, I think that's something that probably throughout both of our tenures, brand was not something we really understood. We understood the brand of the supplier and we sold that as the representative of that supplier, but we were never very good at our own brand. And I think that's something that we are constantly evolving in, that is an evolution in our organizations.
I agree with you. And I know you and I have talked about this before, but I've been in this role very fortunate that we have preserved and saved all these wonderful historical documents here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, not only as a learning tool for me, but who were we? Who did we become? Who have we evolved into?
Mhm.
And I can see that through letters and documents. And a lot of those documents that we have go back to supplier engagements, and
Yeah,
they're hand typed and they're
yeah.
put in the postal service, the stamp on them. And I love to think about the business then when we were handwriting purchase orders and order tickets, and we were saying thank you, and we were writing little notes, and we have a bunch of those. And we've lost that art as we digitize because you can't humanize that transaction, which is unfortunate. So, we try to do a little bit of that here, really ask our salespeople, it's always great to write a handwritten note after a great sales call. Don't just rely on an email, which is also awesome. Do something. Don't
Sure.
just show up and make a call. You have to follow up with a thank you, but handwrite a card because that just doesn't happen anymore. That's a lesson that my great grandfather started with because it was a necessity in 1916. But my dad really carried on that art of handwriting notes, and he still does it all the time.
This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by InSQL Distribution Software. InSQL is a fully functional distribution-based software package. I only recommend software packages that were purpose-built to serve distribution, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. Economy doesn't mean compromise. This company is on the cutting edge of distribution-friendly applications like VMI on mobile devices, mobile signature capture, mobile CRM, warehouse management software, and e-commerce development. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than InSQL Distribution Software at www.insql.com. That's INXSQL.com. I recently shared with a client that I coach. They had a very good year last year. And I invited him to send a personalized note to every person in the company. And I thought he was going to kill me for this, but I thought, what an impactful message to send that handwritten note, thanking them. And there was going to be a little bonus as well. And I said, just take the time for a check and a handwritten note, and you'd be shocked what kind of dividends that will pay going forward. So.
Yeah. So I think it's fun, sort of tying back to that original conversation. I love to see all of that and the genesis of it at the beginning, and then that historical change over time. And I go back, I have bins of history here, and I'll go through it and I'll be like, this is a gem. I mean, I can't believe we saved
You
this.
have so many gems. Just for the audience, one of the things that sparked my attention was you started posting these on LinkedIn. And they're phenomenal. I'm looking at one right now, Conrad Placer Mining Company, and but in 1915.
Yeah. Yes. So that one, if you're looking at a letter and you're reading the letter, in that letter, he's asking for, can you please get me a few things? And they're sort of weird. One is like BVDs. Like,
right.
Bring us some underwear, please.
Yeah, exactly. Union suits. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that was awesome. I see that there's just all of these amazing historical documents, like from DeWalt, and again, that's near and dear to my heart. But I looked at that and I thought, oh my God. And I believe asking your grandfather to get a film projector to show customers the great thing DeWalt. And I'm thinking,
yeah,
this is phenomenal. I mean, this stuff's crazy, but I guess I'm highly envious that you have all of these documents, because I think about my family business and I wish we had these, or at least I knew where they were. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I wish we had more. And there are documents that I haven't been able to go through, but that DeWalt one was really fun because that was wartime. That was in the early 1940s, I think. And
yes,
wartime production was up, and our base here, our Hill Air Force Base, was grinding. And DeWalt back then was more machinery, that brand. So it shows the beginning of the digital evolution. Like, here's this great camera thing, motion picture projector, I think they call it in the letter.
Yeah.
And come and film somebody using it. And that's an investment that Industrial Supply needed to make in order to, I don't know, have a line. I don't know. I don't know the rest of the story, except for that we were asked to buy one, which is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, a motion picture projector for films. Yes. And again, I'm looking at this document, and you can't help but bring a smile. When you look at these things, you're like, that is just such a neat piece of history. But again, I appreciate that you keep these, and I'm going to encourage you, and I hope you keep posting them, because this is really interesting, at least to guys like me. But I think there are so many people that are attracted to this. In fact, I know that I see 300 people were attracted to that on LinkedIn.
I need to remind myself to do it. It's one of those things where, like, this document's so awesome, I think I should post it, but I don't want to be the annoying poster either. So I'm trying to find that balance of too much or too little. Yeah.
Trust me, I get that. I do not want to be. I think that, honestly, people of our vintage have a difficulty sometimes with posting, because we have a difficulty with brand. I think that from a certain age group, we have a difficulty putting ourselves there and not being annoying. And we feel like, well, it annoys me, so it shouldn't annoy others. And so I think sometimes this is best left to people of other generations who have less conflict with this.
Yeah, so I deal with that. So personally, I post these historical documents as a continuity of our brand. And, sometimes we do that as a company, but I like to do it because it's my family business and not necessarily because I'm trying to sell something. It's just check this out. It's awesome. And I'm
Yeah.
so proud to be part of the pedigree here and the history. I'm very fortunate.
Absolutely. No, and it is fun to look at. And maybe it's just again, maybe it's people of our generation and maybe those of us who have been in family businesses and long-term businesses, seeing these types of documents are interesting. But again, I want to jump forward a little bit if I could. I guess as you move forward here, what are some of the bigger challenges that you see? You've taken on this role and you're kind of still, feeling out where the hits are going to come from. But
Yeah.
what do you see as kind of the bigger challenges moving forward in this family business?
Well, it's a very complicated time to take over and, not to talk about all the things that we know in distribution and the industrial world, but the supply chain is a huge challenge. Employment has been a challenge. The inflationary environment that we live in is going to be a challenge for me for a while in this leadership position. To add insult to injury, for me anyway, is last year we went through a software conversion and we made that decision as a company, but all these other things were happening in the macro environment
Right.
that have made the last year very difficult. So I guess I'd say I'm going to get through this if there's ever a way out of what we're going through in the world. Pandemic, supply chain, all those things. And
Sure.
we're trying to find a way as a team here to get out of the reactionary environment and to start doing some of those things that are on our list as part of our strategy and become more proactive, all those things that we all have to figure out how to do. And so I think the challenge for me is to clean up the house because
Mhm.
it's messy and it's messy for all of us. And then get to a place where we feel like we can do some things that are a little bit more creative. And I'm a little bit more, I'd say, I don't like to use the word aggressive because I think it has bad connotations, but I'm a little bit more risk tolerant. It's might
Yeah.
be a better word. My
Yeah.
dad has led our company very conservatively over the years, and
Mhm.
we've been very successful, and he's done a great job. But I want to challenge our team, and I want to continue to grow and take market share and serve our customers. And where our customers want us to go, I want to be able to say yes. And I don't want to say, no, we can't do that. It's too far. It's out of our comfort zone. We do that all the time. So being able to expand a geography
Yeah.
and in a geography, we're doing this, we do this every day, but geographies where we already have customers and we're already shipping and it makes sense. So if you're not taking market share and you're not growing, so what's happening? It
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
becomes a little stagnant
You
and
can only coast one way.
right. And we're not up for sale. Like we have never
Right.
considered that as owners. We've never had a conversation. I wouldn't say we've never had a conversation. We've never had a legit conversation where we've said
Right.
as owners, "Yeah, it's time to hang it up. This has been a fun 106-year-old ride.
Yeah.
Like we might be worth a lot of money. We should probably consider." It's just never happened. And
Yeah.
I don't anticipate that it will when I'm running the company because I want a job. I love this business. I can't
Mhm.
imagine selling it to somebody that might destroy our brand
Mhm.
and our legacy. I can't say that it will never happen because I'm not the only one that would make that decision, but certainly I'm too young to retire. I have too much energy and I love this business. So
Sure.
we need to do some things to just keep it interesting. And that's not just for me
Yeah.
through acquisition or geography expansion or lots of really wonderful things. And then at the end of the day, it's just improving in our operational space and getting better and stickier with our customers and digitizing. Now that's it's got to be a goal. And I'll feel successful if we can do some of those things and maybe not all of them, but
Mhm.
certainly reinventing ourselves to cater to younger generation of buyers.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that again, as a legacy business, we have to look at what does that next generation of buyers look like? And really, how do I serve them? I know that you all do a lot of different, like managed stock rooms, crib things, and
Mhm.
on-site vendor managed inventory and whatnot. But then there's a whole generation of people that like to buy with their fingertips. They don't necessarily want to see a traditional sales team call on them. And so we have to address those things, but that's where that whole digital space is just a new pioneer. It's a wonderful new area, and it can also be very scary. It's a scary environment. And a legacy company, sometimes that transition can be a little hard,
Yeah.
and to make that decision.
Well, we don't necessarily think of transacting digitally necessarily with B2B or B2C order transactions. We think a little broader. Like if we're doing EDI or if we're using vending technology or VMI technology, we consider that digitization for our business.
Gotcha.
And for us, we're at about 50% or so in every transaction, but we need to improve. And we know our competitors their percentage is much greater than that. But we believe still, and I think we will always believe that we need to have human to human relationships, and they go an awfully long way. And I'm grateful because we have a very tenured sales team. So
Hmm.
those relationships are important to our customers, are important to the business, and they will never not be. Go shake a hand, go see your customer, take them to lunch, whatever
Hmm.
you need to do, ask them about their grandkids, like that. That's an art that's sort of dying, unfortunately.
It is. And I think that that's where a company needs to find a balance there. And I think that often legacy sales teams tend to be fearful of that online sales or transaction approach. But I think that the companies that are successful in this have done everything they can to alleviate the fears of those salespeople and to remind them you are valuable. You're extremely valuable and you will not be cut out of this. There's no intention of cutting out. You have a huge role in whatever go to market strategy we have. So, again, when we can find that and help alleviate some of those fears and find a balance between those two and find synergy between them, now I think you've got a winning combination. So,
Yeah. Yes, our sales team is changing. And we've retired, or I shouldn't say we've retired. A few of our people have retired over the last, I don't know, 5 or so years.
sure.
Folks that have been with us for maybe 50 plus years. And so the makeup of our team looks a little different. We still have a
Hmm.
lot of longevity in there, but we're hiring younger people who hopefully want to make industrial supply their home. And we have to convince them to make this a career for them because they tend to want to jump around a little bit,
Yeah.
just their
Yeah.
generation. I'm generalizing, but let's have a career and you can have a great life here. Lots of freedom and flexibility, and you can grow and hopefully be compensated competitively. And please stay with us.
Well, I think that's a big part of your role is to really,
Mhm.
how do we create this environment where people want to stay and want to develop a career? And I've spoken with so many different business owners that really that is top of mind. That is something that we have got to develop a career path. And I think that sometimes millennials and the younger generation gets a bad rap for job hopping. This has always been a knock on them. It's like, hey, let's just pick on them for that.
Yeah.
Well, a gentleman, he shared with me on the show, actually, he said, it's not that they want a job. It's that we just don't keep them fed.
Mm.
And I think that that's something that as the owner of a business and the people who are supporting you have to remember that we need to keep the newer generation fed. We have to show them that career opportunity and we have to
Yeah.
put those opportunities in front of them so they want to stay with you and they want to be a part of the industrial supply fabric for a very long time.
Yep, you're absolutely right. I think it is. We do like to pick on them, and I shouldn't do that. But one of the
It's okay.
challenges
It's
is,
easy to do. It's
I
so
know.
easy. It's so easy.
And one of the opportunities and challenges that I have is getting people in a room and getting their advice and then executing on things that they think could be changed or might be made better somehow and letting them have a voice. That's what they really want is they want to be heard and
Right.
they want to make a difference, right?
Yeah. And I think, yeah, absolutely, giving them that opportunity to be heard. And hey, every once in a while, they're going to surprise you and you're going to go, oh,
Yeah.
didn't think of that. That was pretty good. So that's really that, I guess, the humility that we bring into it is that the ability to remain teachable and not necessarily for people that are older than us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great advice because when I took this job or this opportunity, I've been very candid with my team and with myself. I don't know everything, and that's okay.
Yeah.
People around me can help, and I have such a wonderful team and I trust them immensely. So I will never know everything.
Ooh.
None of us will, but I don't pretend that I'm the most knowledgeable in the industrial distribution space. I pretend that I can do anything because I've got a great team.
Well, it's that power of vulnerability. I think that people will be attracted to you and they will support you and they'll say, no, we're going to make sure that, that we are going to support this organization and we're not going to let you fail. And again, if you can maintain that vulnerability, and I don't know if you've ever seen, heard, or watched Dr. Brene Brown, she's just
Yeah.
one of my favorites because it was just one of those. I happened to listen to one of her TED Talks and it was just this very impactful moment. It's like, if we can remain vulnerable, good things are going to happen around us. And if we think we know it all, we are not going to do well. We are going to fail
Yes.
and fail hard.
I love her very much. I try to listen to her as much as I can.
So, if I could segue for a moment here, one of the other parts about, again, growing up in a legacy business and a family business and an industry is you have that opportunity to serve that industry. And you have done so a couple of different times, the first being with the board of ISA.
Yeah. It's a really good question because I'm thankful for the opportunities to serve. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes we need to ask and we need to volunteer our time instead of waiting to
Right.
be asked. And that ISA board position, it came from spending time on the old YEF committee, the Young Executive Forum, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
now
Sure.
Emerging Leaders. And I did that committee for a few years and I loved it. And I met some wonderful people, but I had to be nudged myself because I had little kids at home. I was busy at work, but one of my greatest friends is Kathleen Durbin with General Tool in Industrial. And
That's my hometown. I know the Durbins. Sure.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Kathleen grabbed me at an ISA or an AD meeting or something and said, Jessica, you have to do YEF. Like, you absolutely have to. You have to learn, you have to volunteer your time. And I was like, I was young. This was, maybe 20 years ago, I guess, 15
Hmm.
years ago.
Yeah.
And so I started there and then I chaired that committee and then you end up with a board seat or not a seat on the board, but you can attend the meetings, I think, as the chair of a committee.
Yes.
Then I got asked to do board term and I learned so much. And I'm just grateful because you can't learn anything within the four walls of your business. And so to be in a room with people that are much smarter than I was and learning the industry, and I listened a lot. I don't know how much of an impact I made for that board, but I learned a lot myself. So selfishly, it was really good for me. So I did that. I did that 2012 to 15, I think. And then last year I served on the AD Safety Network board, which as they merged with the old SMG, that was a good fit for me. Our businesses, we do a lot in safety,
Yeah. Yeah.
but a board seat just opened up on the industrial and safety division. And I'm now on that board. And so I just had my first meeting. And again, I have a lot to learn before I start to add anything to that board, but I'm grateful to volunteer and to give back because this industry has done so much for me and my family. And ISA as our trade association and
It is.
AD as our buying group, very important to our business and our bottom line and our future. So I know you have to say no sometimes, but these are opportunities that don't come by very often. And I've had to nudge a little bit like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm interested, or, keep me in mind. And
Sure.
not begging, but like, if there's ever a seat,
Yeah, well, I think it's important. Yeah,
yeah,
and I think it's interesting you just said it, pick me. And a lot of people question, how do you get involved? And I always tell them, get a hold of the executive director or the association or buying group, whoever it is, and just say, I'm interested in volunteering. They are going to find something for you. I guarantee it. I think there's a misnomer or misunderstanding is that you don't have to be like this long standing third generation member. You don't have to be one of the big fish in the pond or any of that. If you are interested in volunteering and giving of time, they're going to find something for you to do. Whether you serve on the board or not, or you serve in a committee, there's so many different opportunities to be of service.
yes, I agree. And that committee work often ends up with maybe a board opportunity if you like it. I mean, some people don't want to do it any longer than their committee serves and they check a box and move on. But for me, when I don't have a business degree, because I did whatever I was doing, I need all the business influence and outside perspective I can get. So it's very important for me for the health of my position here and to continue to challenge myself to grow and learn. It's really easy to be stagnant and say, I'm good. I mean, the business is running pretty well. I don't need
Yeah,
to read that book. I don't need to volunteer my time.
sure.
I
Sure.
personally need it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I do encourage that of everyone in these organizations is just get involved. All right. If you think back, and again, you're from my similar vintage, so you might remember Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And it was never the gazelle in the middle of the pack that got eaten. It was always the ones on the outside, and it was always the stragglers or whatnot. So, what I try to share that analogy with business owners, look, if you're in the middle of your industry, middle of the pack, you're not going to get eaten by the lions out there.
Yeah.
But if you are, if you're constantly outside and looking at the others on the inside, you are very vulnerable at that point. So
Yeah. No, that's a good reminder. I like that analogy.
I bring them out, if I'm not good for much, I'm good at analogies every once in a while. So that's all I got in my bag. So, well, hey, Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time with me. This has been fantastic. It's been a pleasure getting to know you a little better. I've known the company a little bit, but this has been fun, especially looking at the documents you post and then getting to know a little bit more about you.
Oh, I really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for thinking of me. And
Absolutely.
you do a great job. So thank you, Jason.
No, my pleasure. All right, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider sharing with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast application. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by the brilliant team at the Creative Impostor Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, the Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.